Welcome to WakeGOV TV. I'm Eric Curry. We have several stories lined up for you today. The Wake County Commission for Women recently presented its State of Employment for Women report to the Board of Commissioners. We'll have details. And Wake County EMS recently received a state grant for its advanced paramedic program. We'll have details. But first, child abuse and neglect have long-term impacts, not only for the individual victim, but the community as a whole. Encouraging safe and nurturing environments for child development is essential in ensuring success and improved quality of life in the future. As part of the National Child Abuse Prevention Month, Wake County is raising awareness through its Child Abuse Prevention Initiative. Joining us to talk about this important issue is the Communications Coordinator for Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, Christy DeMars, and with Wake County Human Services, Gabriel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Christy, what happens when a child suffers abuse or neglect?
Well, child abuse and neglect is actually an adverse childhood experience that can produce toxic stress responses in the brain. And that toxic stress actually damages the architecture of the maturing brain in a child. So when that happens, a child is not only affected in the short term, but also in the long term. When they grow up and they become an adult, that can lead to adult health issues like cancer, obesity, depression, heart disease, and even early death. So trying to fix things later is actually less effective and more costly than preventing it in the first place.
And I guess in this state, can you talk about the issue of child abuse and neglect and maybe some of the statistics right here in our backyard?
Sure. Actually, in North Carolina, child abuse and neglect is a public health issue, but it's more than that. It affects the child right now, and it affects all of us in the future. It affects our community, our society, and our success for the future. And some statistics for child abuse and neglect, I think there's over 128,000 reports of child abuse and neglect between 2014 and 2015 in North Carolina, and over 70,000 reports in Wake County alone between 2014 and 2015.
Obviously Wake County is very active in a number of issues, and particularly this one. What is Wake County doing to raise awareness about child abuse and neglect?
Well, that's a great question. We have taken our child abuse prevention team and is spread across the county. So versus it just being in one isolated department, we have expanded it to all of our departments, be it food and nutrition, economic services, housing. All these are areas where we are expanding child abuse prevention.
Can you go into a little bit more detail as to how important the community involvement is to this component?
It is vital. We could never even start to address child abuse prevention without our community partners. We have some of our partners that stem from housing. We have partners that are including the faith-based community, where they themselves are taking the step and becoming educated in how to make reports, and also how to help strengthen the families so that the families are not facing criminal charges as far as child abuse prevention goes. We're also very proud of our Wake County Public Schools. Many of their social workers have taken a step towards going a little bit farther and meeting with the parents and talking with the community leaders on things that they can do right in the community.
Are there any events here in Wake County that addresses and focuses on this particular issue?
Yes, actually through our partnership with Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, we have what's called the Pinwheel Garden plantings, and that's where individuals can plant simple pinwheels in their community. WRL, City of Raleigh, and all throughout the communities and the regions will be planting pinwheels.
And how can folks find out more about this important topic?
People can go to preventchildabusennc.org to learn more, to get involved with the Pinwheels for Prevention campaign, and to find out how else they can get involved throughout the year.
Christy DeMars with Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, and of course my good friend Gabriel with Wake County Human Services. Thank you so much for being here. When we return, we'll discuss the state of employment for women here in Wake County. Stay tuned.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back. The Wake County Commission for Women recently presented its State of the Employment for Women report to the Board of Commissioners during one of its recent board meetings. The 31-page report consists of 4 months worth of research that was compiled to gather accurate and valuable insight into the issues facing women in the Wake County workforce today. Joining us to discuss the report and its implications is the study's co-author, Jackie Terry Hughes, and Commissioner Caroline Sullivan. Thank you both for being here. What are some of the specific goals and objectives in presenting and really researching such an important document?
So this was a report that was requested by Commissioner Sullivan to basically hone in some of the issues affecting women in Wake County in the workforce. And what our commission sought out to do was not only to identify the plethora of issues out there that affect women every day in terms of trying to get better paying or even a job itself, but something that the Board of Commissioners can actually handle and policy implications and things that they can actually do something about. So the report sort of honed in on specific items that we researched and found actually applicable to women of Wake County that we can present to this Board of Commissioners where they can actually put their hands around it and effectuate some change.
Can you share some of the report's findings?
What the report was looking at is, number one, what are the disparities, if there are any, between the salaries of women and men across the educational spectrum? And also, what sorts of barriers are women finding that are standing in their way of reaching their full potential? Women are 51.3% of the population in Wake County. Most women work. 2/3 of all families rely on a woman's income to be able to make the family work. So we were looking at what sorts of barriers are there that are keeping women back, and maybe how can we help eliminate some of those.
And based on the results of the report, what recommendations did you make to the board?
Well, we made a number of recommendations, actually. Probably the most important, I think, is the appointment of a task force of specialists out there that know and have experience in the various different aspects and recommendations we've made, from childcare to workforce development to educational attainment for women. That was a big issue that we highlighted in our report, and we identified something like 79,000 women have a high school degree or less, and half of those women are living at or below poverty level, which is absolutely atrocious. And so we think the Wake County Board of Commissioners can work as a way of example to develop more college-based programs. We have a ton of GED programs that are effective out there. Why don't we add a layer of college programming so these women that may just have a high school degree or less can start working themselves up, because we know that there's a direct correlation between education and income level, and that's what we really want to address.
And Commissioner Sullivan, as a member of the board and receiving this report, obviously this task force could really bring about some great ideas and insights into the issues affecting women in Wake County. Can you elaborate on the work that is needed in moving forward?
Yes. Well, let me first highlight on some of the data points that we found in the study. There is discrepancy on income between men and women across all of the educational attainment spectrum. So if you look at a woman who in Wake County who has had less than a high school diploma, her average salary will be $12,811 versus her male counterpart with the same educational level of $18,993. That is an enormous discrepancy. That puts the woman below the poverty line. That means that that woman, if she has children, will have children also in poverty. And to echo what Jackie was saying, this is incredibly important. We know that children who are born into poverty have far more barriers throughout their lives from a health standpoint, an education standpoint, and then finally success in the adult world. So we need to be very conscious of getting the word out to young women that dropping out of high school is a very dangerous choice for them throughout their lives, and that the difference between what a woman makes and a man makes without a high school degree is substantial.
And what resources are available for those interested in finding out more about the report or more about the Commission for Women?
Well, if you go to the Wake government website and put in Wake County Commission for Women, that will take you to the Commission's particular link, and in that link is the entirety of this report with the appendices of the survey and the like. And if anyone has any questions or follow-up or interest in following the course of what happens next, then please just send the Wake County Commission for Women an email, and we will certainly be happy to work with whoever would like to volunteer on this big task to sort of take this the next step.
Commissioner Caroline Sullivan and Jackie Terry Hughes, one of the co-authors of the study, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll talk about what's being done to provide resources here in Wake County for women who are homeless. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Wake County's effort to offer more coordinated services to persons who are experiencing homelessness, Wake County has been collecting data and providing accurate information on what kind of assistance consumers need. Emergency shelters are an essential part of homeless services. For individuals and families experiencing economic shocks, emergency shelters are often the first place to find solace. Joining us to talk about this important issue is David Harris, Program Manager for Wake County Human Services. Thank you so much for being here, David.
It's great to be here.
Can you fill us in on where the county is in its effort to serve persons who are homeless?
Well, our community is really fortunate to have so many people who are interested in homelessness and really working to make a difference in the lives of our citizens. Not only do our homeless providers provide services, but each year they come together and they do a collective count of our population who is experiencing homelessness. So those are folks who are literally homeless. They go out and they provide outreach and they count those folks. And so we've been doing this for almost 20 years, and it really provides what I would consider really great trend data. So back in 2002, we counted 1,600 homeless citizens in our community. And most recently in January, we counted just at 1,000 homeless citizens. Our community has almost doubled in that same time period, but we've made significant decreases in homelessness in that same time period. So I think that's a cause for at least stepping back and celebrating just a little.
Now, obviously, you talk about the issue of homelessness, and we all drive to and from work or from home, and especially here in the downtown area, you see the homeless community just congregating anywhere they can safely. But one group, single women, are experiencing homelessness here in Wake County. Can you talk about the current state of that sector in the homeless community?
Yeah, that's still an area that we need to roll up our sleeves. When we look at those decreases that I was talking about, we've seen decreases in men, we've seen decreases in families, we've even seen decreases in women. But if you delve into that more carefully, there is a 5-year trend where we're having an increase in the number of single women. So those are women without children living on the streets by themselves. And in 2010, we counted 120 single women during that year. And when we counted that number in 2015, we counted roughly 200 single women. So that's a 60% increase in a 5-year period when everything else has been on a downturn.
And what efforts are underway to help these women?
Well, we really became acutely aware of that situation last winter when we were moving into our white flag or our cold weather emergency housing operations. And we were concerned that we weren't going to have enough space for single women in our community. We're glad that everybody banded together and we're able to operate above capacity for that winter period. But then after the winter, we started really working with the shelters, contacting them individually and asking them if they could expand capacity. And then we kind of delved deeper into the situation. And so one of the things that we're working to do is really try to implement some of the national best practices around changing service delivery. So looking at things like provided rapid rehousing within the context of a shelter, looking more at diversion, looking at homeless prevention. So what we really want to do is we want to kind of unclog the shelter situation so it's moving more fluidly.
Now, as you talk about the plan and working with the partners, do you believe that it's adequate to reach the population that you need, and does budget allow for room to make such an effort happen?
In terms of budget, it really is it's a public-private kind of cooperation, so we'll have to do that together. We do have housing services budget. It's always a fixed budget, but in terms of this being a priority and a gap, that's something that we're going to look toward funding in the future. And in terms of really needing some capital, that's something that I think we'll be able to garner in our community.
And lastly, how can folks find out about the information shared today and some of the progress being made?
Sure. I really think maybe a best one place of information would be our website, so the community website, endinghomelessnesswake.org.
David Harris with Wake County Human Services, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
When we return, we'll talk about a grant received by Wake EMS. Stay tuned.
The time is right to head out to Bond Park and have some fun. Test your fishing skills at the water or take a relaxing ride in one of our boats. For more adventure and challenge, get a bird's eye view from the rope course or stay on the ground for team-building fun. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, there's an option for you. Need supplies or maybe a cool treat? Visit the concession stand. Our friendly staff is there to help make the most of your day. So gather some friends, the family, or your teammates and come enjoy a day at the town of Cary's Bond Park.
Welcome back. The Wake County Board of Commissioners recently accepted and appropriated $70,000 to be used by Wake EMS's Advanced Practice Paramedic Program at its regularly scheduled meeting last month. The award was granted to expand the role of paramedics and develop community-based initiatives in providing emergency care and services for the public here in Wake County. Joining us to discuss this appropriation and to talk about the APP program is Wake EMS District Chief Jeffrey Hammerstein. Thank you so much for being here. Before we talk about the grant, Jeffrey, can you kind of provide us some background on the county's Advanced Practice Paramedic Program and its aim?
Absolutely. So Advanced Practice Paramedic, or APPs as we call them, are designed and put in place to kind of look at a little bit different way of responding to some of the calls that we receive. A big portion of the 911 calls we receive, the people that we see don't necessarily need the traditional paramedic ambulance interaction and transport to emergency department. There are a lot of cases where, number one, they may need something a little bit different that doesn't come from the emergency room, and this is the only way they know to access that. And then in other cases, there may be people who we see them in their homes or places of business. They've got some conditions going on that we may be able to help do a little something for them without ever actually having to get them to the emergency department, which of course is good for them, good for the system as a whole. So the advanced practice paramedics will respond oftentimes alongside the paramedic ambulance. And if it's a situation where we can deal with it in a little bit more efficient alternative way than just the emergency transport, then we'll look at doing that and put that ambulance back in service.
What kinds of situations would APPs help to prevent?
So we kind of sum up their responsibility with respond, reduce, and redirect. So the respond part of that is We've got a lot of complex protocols for emergency care for the paramedics to undertake. This allows us to put another experienced paramedic on the scene of that critical level call so that we've got more heads working through those protocols and working through those situations, which is certainly beneficial. Redirect would be another example. As we talked about, patients that may not necessarily get the most benefit out of time at the emergency department, but probably need to be somewhere else, we can work to get them more efficiently to that place. If we go on to look at the reduced part of it, there are people that may have ongoing medical conditions. For example, heart failure would be one that, if not managed well, and in some circumstances anyway, could lead to some pretty serious emergency breathing problems. There are sometimes things that we can do to spend time with them in their home, help them manage that, stay on top of it a little better, so that they less frequently may slip into needing to call 911 and needing to get back into the hospital.
And now let's go talk about the recent appropriation of $70,000 grant from the state. What components or objectives of the APP program does this grant money provide for?
So that does a lot of good. So we started this program, very few of its kind, in 2009, and we've been able to show and demonstrate that it does provide some efficiencies. It can help keep some people healthier and save costs and that type of thing. The issue that we run into now is the capacity to do it on a larger scale. So in kind of a pilot way, we've demonstrated we could do it. We need to do more of it. Well, you can't just snap your fingers and put more resources on the road. It takes funding, of course, as we all know, to do that. So this helps us to put more on the road and up the capacity of who we can serve. The other piece of it, everything in EMS is very data-driven now. We can't just do a treatment and say, oh, that's a good thing because we've always done it that way. We need to check that. We need to monitor it, collect data on it, and see if it's actually doing good for the people that we serve. And of course, with this appropriation on the state level, they're going to want to know it works too, of course. So we can use some of this funding to bring some of our own APPs back in and do more number crunching and gathering data to then make clear reports that show this is good for the people of Wake County and good for the people of North Carolina.
Where can citizens find out more about the APP program?
It's simple. You can just go to the Wake County website, WakeGOV.com, and in the search bar, just put Advanced Practice Paramedics. That will take you right to our section of the county's website, the EMS department section, and the page that describes in more detail what Advanced Practice Paramedics do.
All right, great. Jeffrey Hammerstein, Wake County EMS District Chief, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Eric.
When we return, we'll talk about some exciting volunteer opportunities to help keep Wake County clean. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Wake County, volunteers play a pivotal role in keeping Wake County clean, protected, and litter-free. Throughout spring and fall of each year, volunteer events are planned in partnership with county parks, schools, youth groups, civic organizations, churches, and businesses. As one of these events, the Wake County Big Sweep gives citizens an opportunity to pitch in and keep their neighborhoods clean. Joining us to talk about the 2016 Spring Big Sweep event is Environmental Education Specialist and Big Sweep Coordinator with Wake County, Sheila Jones. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Eric.
Sheila, what is Wake County Big Sweep?
Well, Wake County Big Sweep is a set of seasonal litter cleanups. Just like you said, every fall and spring, we mobilize volunteers here in Wake County to clean up our county's lakes, streams, and wetlands. And we are part of something very big. In fact, the biggest cleanup on the planet, which is the Ocean Conservancy's International Coastal Cleanup.
Now, you know, citizens can go out and pick up trash along their curbs or if they're in the county, just along the roads. But why is this program so important here in Wake County?
Well, I think people are familiar with the road cleanups, and they can be dangerous for children. But we focus more on the watersheds. That seems to be a need out here because the litter does travel. It'll go down storm drains and it goes right into our creeks untreated, and that is our lakes and streams and wetlands. And we are intercepting it before it travels into the Neuse River or the Cape Fear River and enters the Atlantic Ocean.
Do you think that's why Wake County Big Sweep continues to be so unique compared to all of the other litter cleanup events and programs that you can find statewide?
We are different in that we use the Ocean Conservancy's data cards. We actually ask our volunteers to track how much litter they're picking up and what types of litter.
What tends to be the top one or two items that are found along the waterways in Wake County?
The number one is the same in the world, in the U.S., in North Carolina and Wake County, and that is cigarettes, cigarette butts and cigar tips. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, and 10th all kind of switch, but it's stuff we put in our mouth. So it's cigarettes that we smoke, or it's the containers we use for our food and drink.
Where can individuals sign up for Wake County Big Sweep, and how do they sign up?
Well, they can go to WakeGOV.com and they'll find us. As soon as they log on, a search box will come up and they type in Big Sweep, and then there's some links. Click on the top one and it'll take you to the Big Sweep, Wake County Big Sweep webpage, and then they can get a PDF of our spring or fall schedule. And we appreciate them pre-registering because that way we know to expect them and we'll have the supplies ready for them. We give them gloves to keep them safe. We have the data cards, and we have trash bags and recycle bags.
And they should be reminded to wear hard sole shoes?
I definitely would, yes. And not your Sunday best, clothes that can get dirty. And we have all different sites. Some sites are manicured parks and they have paved greenways, and other sites are pretty rough. They have steep slopes, ravines, covered in briars that are very prickly, poison ivy, and very uneven ground. So it's best to check with the zone captain. And our Wake County parks and the city parks and the state parks and the town parks all have something for everyone. There's areas for children where they can be safe but still participate. And then the ones who really want to get down and dirty, they've got the back 40 for them.
Okay, wonderful. Sheila Jones with Wake County Soil and Water, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Keep up with the latest Wake County news by visiting us online at wakegov.com/news or on Facebook or Twitter. That's our show for today. Thanks again for watching.